Dikshitar tells, Vamanadanyam na janeham Vamanadanyam na janeham. I know of no one else but Vamana, says Dikshitar in his Dasharaga Malika Kirtana on the Dashavatarams of the Lord. The first is this. So this is the depiction of Vamana, who in the form of Vishnu grows and becomes Trivikrama. Traditionally, if you go to three places, one, we are reminded of the Ulagalanda Perumal Kovil in Kanchipuram, which is a Tondainattu Divyadesham. Second is Tirukkovalur, which is a Nadunattu Divyadesham. Gopapuradhi Rajaha, says Vedanta Deshika. That is a Krishnaranya Kshetram. Third is Kalichirama Vinnagaram, which is Shirgali. In all these three places, you will see Trivikrama. But you will see Trivikrama who's portrayed with a Kritam and with all the Ayudhams. So this is the depiction of Trivikrama. But we need to now see the depiction of Vamana the way Keshav is perceived. Now there is a beautiful verse in which Vedanta Deshika describes Vrida Vidhavadanya Danava Yasho Nasira Dhati Bhataha Trayaksham Makutam Punannuvatanas Traivikramo Vikramaha. The one who went around the world celebrating the magnanimity and generosity of Bali, it seems, says Vedanta Deshika. Now you have seen this. Let's go part by part. Why do we have to understand Keshav's paintings from the Shastric lens? In those days, there were many poets, there were many dramatists. One such poet that we know of in our days is Kalidasa. His dialogues, his depiction of characters, they were all filled just not with different figures of speech. He brought in Shastram too. For example, in Shakuntalam, Dushyanta comes to the forest for hunting. So while he comes to the forest for hunting, he understands from a rishi called Vaikhanasa that Kanva Maharishi has gone on a sojourn to Somatirtha. At that point in time, the rishi tells, well, you can still visit the ashramam, King Dushyanta, because Kanva Maharishi's daughter Shakuntala is there. Understanding and hearing the word for the first time, Dushyanta has this urge to go to the hermitage. He ends up changing his dress from that of a warrior to a hermit. The charioteer asks, why are you changing your dress? Vinita Veshena Praveshtitavyani Tapovanani Nama, says Kalidasa through Dushyanta. You will have to enter places of great reverence in a certain dress code. Follow that. So Kalidasa brings in these values through such dialogues. Let's take another verse of that's found in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. So there, in the Upanishad, it is stated that when the Atma departs, in certain cases, it will go find asylum in the Chandra, in moon. This is what Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as well as Shvetashvatara Upanishad states. In the great work called as Naishadham, which was given by Sri Harsha, Nipitayasya Kshitirakshinakata Tathadriyante na Budhasudhamapi Nalaschhitas Chatrita Kirti Mandalaha is a beautiful work, Naishadham. In that, Damayanti sees the moon. And it was as if the moon was looking at her and mocking at her, telling that finally, Damayanti, you may be thinking about Nala, the king, and his beauty. But ultimately, you have to come to me. This is what the Upanishad states. This is what the moon was trying to tell Damayanti. But Damayanti says, You have misunderstood the statement of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and the other Upanishad, Chandra. It says that I have to go to the moon of Nala's face. Nalendu Mukham. So, if we have to understand such poetry and drama, we need to understand Shastram. And if we read the poem, we get the Shastram in it. Similarly is Keshav's painting. Kalidasa may have lived in the 2nd or the 3rd century. In this period, we come across one such consummate artist. Let me go part by part. This is Brahma. If you see Brahma, we have the 4 faces that are depictive of his understanding, internalizing of the 4 Vedas. You see 4 Hamsa birds there, right? Why should it be Hamsa? Because Brahma's Vahanam is Hamsa Vahanam. And Hamsa is a mystic bird that has been time and again revealed in our scriptures, saying that it had the ability, the unique ability to demarcate what is water from milk. Because both water in water or milk in milk or water in milk is a colloid. It cannot be separated that easily. So in this case, you had a Hamsa, and that is why Acharyas were called Paramahamsas. Now, if you see, there are Hamsas. The 4 Hamsas signify the 4 Vedas. Generally, in our scriptures, if at all Vedam has to be iconographized, if it has to come through icons or it has to come in a portrait, it has to come in the form of a parrot. Because Vedam itself is an act where the Acharya tells and the student repeats. So the student parrots the Acharya. So that is why Vedam Anaithirkum Vittagum Kodai Tamil. The essence of the Vedas, which has been put together by Andal, who was raised in Srivilliputturu, the little hamlet, that Andal carries a parrot. If you have seen, Unnodu Tholamai Kolluvan Kuile, she tells in Nachiyar Tirumuri. Innadishilodu Palamudutti Valartha en Kola Kiliyai. I have nurtured a parrot, she says. She says that I have been repeating what my father has told me. I have not composed anything. Vishnu Chittar Kertirupar Tammai Uhapparai Tamuhappar Ennum Shol Tammidaye Poyyanal Sadhipparariniye. So to repeat is to parrot. So Vedic thoughts are always repeated. You keep repeating with the same swara, like how your Acharya has taught you. So the 4 Vedas have to be personified as 4 parrots. But what is the Vahanam for Brahma? It is Hamsa. So he could have either brought 4 parrots and 4 Hamsas together and cluttered the painting. But what he has done is, he has brought the green hue of the parrot in the white swan. So he has used the Vedic thought that goes into the swan there. This is where you follow Shastram. Now, Brahma has a kamandalam from which the divine waters of Ganga start flowing. So in chemical engineering, those of you who are chemical engineers, we keep reading about the laminar flow and the turbulent flow and where it turns turbulent and where it is laminar. So when it begins, it is with that flow. But by the time it comes down and reaches the matted locks of Shiva in the forthcoming portraits, you will see that the force has come down. So now Brahma is pouring the waters from the Kamandala Jalam to the feet of Vishnu. Is this found in our Shastram? Here goes the Shlokam. Tvatsangamannanu sakridvidhi samprayukta shuddhim paramadhajigama shivatva hetum rangadhiraja pada rakshani kidrishasa ganga babhuva bhavadiya gata gatena, says Vedanta Deshika in Paduka Sahasram. He says how Ganga started flowing from the top. So Ganga starts flowing. Now, let us see where is Shiva. If you see Shiva, you see 2 peaks of mountains at the bottom. He's standing on the peak. Can you see that? So it was as if the moment Bhagirath prayed to Shiva, saying that you will have to take Ganga on your matted locks, and Shiva instantaneously agreed to this request. It's as if Shiva goes and wants to take every drop of it and starts running from the foothills and goes atop the hills of Kailasham, keeping one foot on one peak and the other foot on the other peak, and then opens his matted locks. So, Kunitta Puruvamum Kovvai Sevvayit Kumitchirippum Panitta Sadayum Pavalampol Meniyit Pal Vennirum Initta Mudaya Edutta Purpadamum Kana Petral Manitta Piraviyum Venduvade Yimmanilatte. Says the beautiful Nayanmar as to how handsome Shiva was. If you see many caricatures and depictions of Shiva, especially in the north of India, they will make him blue. All our scriptures call him, he's so fair, and over the fairness of his skin, he has applied the ashes. So there is a greyish white tinge to him. That is why Shiva is depicted this way. So there you see the matted locks receiving the waters of Ganga. And you see the small elements. There is a Trishulam there in his hand. There is the tiger skin around his waist. And the way he accepts it, Shiva is known to be superbly handsome. In the Kshetram of Madurai, he is called Sundareshwara. Very, very handsome. So there, we will now see the growth of Vamana. Here goes the shlokam of Vedanta Deshika. Bhakta priyatvai tatha parivardhamane mukta vitara mitatistava purvamasid haravalif paramathorashana kalapaha tara ganastadanu mauktikanu purashrihi. He says when Vamana grew, Bali Chakravarti, despite having his Acharya who had inhibitions to granting Vamana the boon, he does it with absolute good heart, calling Vindhyavali and pouring the waters. Now, by the time he turns back to see what a glimpse of Vamana is, there is a big shadow cast on him because Vamana was growing. Vedanta Deshika has to tell us how he grew. There is a very colloquial way of telling. Eppadi saaptar? Saaptunde irundar. Eppadi paathar? Paathunde irundar. Eppadi valandar? Valandunde irundar. Solittu poidalaam. If we are Harikatha artists, we know how to jal nu vandar, ninnar, valandaram, adha paatha, naanga appadi solliduvom. But how will you show that in a painting? Valandunde ponarna, how can you show the movement in the painting? So here, Vedanta Deshika has come to the rescue of Keshav. He says, then Vamana was in his own shape, in his own form. The constellation of stars were initially like an umbrella, a canopy. And as he grew further, they became a necklace. As he grew further, it became his mekhala, girdle, uddiyanam. And as he grew further, it became the anklet. You can see the stars there at the right-hand corner becoming the vitanam, the umbrella. Next, the necklace. Third, his girdle. Fourth, it becomes his nupuram, which is anklet. Vedanta Deshika's verse has been transformed in one part of this entire painting. Now, when you see the fourth part, who is Vamana? We all know from the Balakandam of Srimad Ramayanam, from Srimad Bhagavatam, from different places of Vamana Puranam, and some parts of Mahabharatam, that Vamana, who was the son of Aditi and Kashyapa, was none but the avataram of Narayana. How do we prove that? In a painting. See, all this is for people like us who explain for 2-3 hours together. All my explanation has to come into one portrait. So, he has used Vedatma Vihageshwaraha. There is a Garuda next to his foot. So, that shows that the person is none but Narayana. But is Garudatvam alone enough? Garuda could be the Vahanam for a few other people. But what is that one property that the Lord cannot separate himself from? Which is that apritak siddha viseshanam for the Lord. You see it here. Mahalakshmi in the heart. So this is another verse from Vedanta Deshika's verse. Bhikshochitam prakatayan prathamashramatvam Krishnajinam yavanika kritavan priyayaha. Bhikshochitam. The Lord went to the Yagavatika of Bali seeking alms. Prathamashramatvam. The Prathamashramam is Brahmacharya ashramam. He went as a brahmachari. And a brahmachari of those days couldn't have had the audacity to show a girl's photo from his heart. Right. Times have changed, of course. But here, Vamana couldn't have had the audacity to show that Mahalakshmi is there. But she says, Agalagillein irayumennu alarmel mangai. She is inseparable from him. So Vedanta Deshika says, he covered her with a beautiful deer skin. So she was hidden. Yavanika, a screen was drawn. But sir, the screen is drawn. But here we can see. Well, there is another verse to support why she was seen. The purpose was to cover her, yet she was seen. How? Here is one verse from Lakshmi Sahasram of Venkatadhwari Kavi. Vakshasthathamapi varnitanusritaye krishnajinena vrunot devastvamiti varnayanti katichit brumo vayam twindire bhavyam vamana rupametya bhagavan bhagyam harishyan balehe yenam kartumagocharam shubhavusham twadvikshitanam iti. Venkatadhwari Kavi in Lakshmi Sahasram in Dashavatara Stabakam he says, it seems the Lord wanted to make Bali a pauper. But Mahalakshmi said, I shall not get down from your heart. The Lord had a catch-22 situation. He has to make Bali a pauper. But if Lakshmi keeps looking at him, he will become one of the richest persons in the world. He cannot tell Lakshmi, get down. So he covered with the deer skin. But Lakshmi said, see, ultimately he is your devotee. Why do you want to make him a pauper? Make him a king of another world. If not this world, another world. So Lakshmi's grace had to fall on him. So half of her body was covered. The other half was peeping out to tell that I shall bless this devotee as well. So you can see Mahalakshmi there. Another important identification in such portraits, you cannot do that even in sculptures because you can use colors here, is to show the eyes of the Lord. Chandogyam says, Kapyasam Pundarikam evamakshini. The one who has got the eyes of the petals of a newly blossomed lotus. When Shurpanaka had to go and complain to her half-brothers Khara, Dushana and Trishiras that she has been humiliated, she says, Pundarikakshav, the one with the lotus eye has done this harm to me. When Duryodhana admonishes Krishna for having stayed in the hermitage of Vidura, he says, Kimartham pundarikaksha dugdham vrishabhabojanam. So anybody, even if they have to praise or scold Krishna, they would call, oh, you lotus-eyed one. Thittumbodu kuda, yo, tamarai kannane. So the tamarai kann has to come. How do we know? So the ends of his eyes, he's not anemic, right? So you need to see the hue of redness. Kadiyavagi pudai parandu milirundu shevvariyodi. Shevvari says Tirupanalva. Shevvari. That redness should be seen. But it should look like a lotus eyes. Look at those eyes. Now, you have noticed Vamana there carrying the umbrella. Now, there is a magnified portion of the vastram that he is carrying. Can you see there is Kurma Avataram, Varaha Avataram, Nrisimha Avataram telling that this is my fifth. So in that Vastram there is Avataram. So there is one portrait. You may go to krishnafortoday.com, buy that portrait, hang it in your hall, say this is Keshav's. But if someone comes home, ask them to sit for 25 minutes, give them this explanation. Because it is not a painting of colors. It's not splashing of colors and calling it an art which is abstract so that you can determine it the way you want. That's not the way he has made it. I don't mean to undermine anybody. I don't mean to undermine any part of the modern art. I have no such qualification. But as a primitive mortal who was born one day and was going to die one day, I'm sure I will not have the knowledge to understand modern art. I am too primitive a mortal to understand. I can understand only the art of Keshav.